just a second.
Got it.
All right. I would like to take a moment just to welcome everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I am Karen George, and I am the Homeless Programs Director and the Community Coordinated Response Meeting Person for Family Promise of Bristol. So that's what I do here with the organization. I kind of wear quite a few hats. So if you've got questions about Family Promise of Bristol, feel free to shoot those my way. And then for those of you that are new to the meeting, the purpose of this meeting, it got started during COVID so that we could still all come together and know what different organizations were doing to serve the community throughout that time, and just to address the needs of the community, the homeless community, food insecurity, and everybody that's at risk. So we're still using this meeting for those things, and it's kind of expanded over the past couple of years as well. But we will have a speaker, and then we'll do some networking at the end. And then just to remind everybody, there is a similar meeting. It's the Bristol Coalition meeting, and they are meeting next on October 10th at noon. And that's at Bristol, Virginia Housing at the Envision Center. And they also do that via Zoom if you'd like to attend that as well. And then our next coordinated community response meeting is October 27th. And that's Friday at 11 a.m. And we do those via Zoom, just like this one right here.
Yay.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the baton over to Melissa Roberts, who is the Executive Director at Appalachian Promise Alliance. And she's going to introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you, Karen, and hello, everybody. I was honored. Margaret, typically is the one who's here to run these meetings, and she is traveling to see grandbabies. So she is probably somewhere around Wilkesboro at this point. So she asked me to introduce a long friend, and it's an honor to introduce Tony. We have worked together. We get 2 minutes at meetings. But Tony has his PhD in environmental studies, specifically the effects of bad air quality on animal lungs and exercising humans. And he has worked on tobacco cessation, social factors that determine longevity, impact of city and suburban living, greenways and trails, all of the things that are good. And a lot of those experiences are related to his volunteer spirit. He is the past chairman of the National American Lung Association. He's worked with the Environmental Protection Agency on various committees and programs, and has been involved with research, teaching, and service as a faculty member of the Quillen College of Medicine. And in the 46 years that Tony has resided in the Tri-Cities, he's had a regional focus on things like Kingsport Tomorrow, which provided a platform for what he calls life after the American Lung Association. He's now dedicating his recent efforts towards our veterans and the issues of substance use disorder. He has recently received funding from Appalachian Regional Commission to create an alliance of those working on behalf of our veterans, which stems from having those close involvements with the James H. Quillen Veteran Affairs Medical Center and summer internships for medical students. And the issues he works on are never easy to solve. They are all deeply rooted social issues, but his interest in collaboration involves health, education, economy, environment, safety, resilience, infrastructure, all of the things that we talk about, because when we're talking about substance use disorder, it's not a one and done kind of thing. So it is my honor to introduce Dr. Tony DeLucia.
Hi, everyone. Really nice to be talking to you. Are we going to be able to share my screen with things?
So you should be able to, at the bottom of the Zoom, there is a share screen that you will need to click on. It's a green button.
How about from beginning, this right here? Are you looking at Introduction to Vet SUDSA?
No. So if you've got it on, this is on the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
There's at the bottom where you see participants and chat, there is a share screen.
Now we should be able to do it.
Ah, there it comes.
See, this is always, you love technology, but then you live and die by it.
It's a love-hate relationship. We can see it now, Tony. Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to be able to zip right through it. After that wonderful introduction, and believe me, I feel humbled by getting a chance to talk to you. I thought I'd take a few minutes, and Margaret did want it brief, which is very difficult for me. I love to talk, but I thought I would weave in some themes like our veterans, mental health, Appalachia, and teamwork. Just right out of the gate, let's do these kinds of things. So Melissa mentioned the grant that I have, and it's entitled Veteran Substance Use Disorder Support Alliance of Northeast Tennessee. So it's the same 8 counties as the 1st Tennessee Development District. And those of you in Virginia get afraid, really afraid, because we're looking at how we can expand. So why this topic and why now? Well, there are plentiful opportunities to reduce the toll of opioids and addiction in our wonderful region, whether it's tobacco or alcohol or opioids or meth or just anything. So what we're trying to do is lower those frequencies that people are indulged in those behaviors, and hopefully alleviate the consequences so that we can actually put people back in a productive mode and a happy mode for their lives. So what we're really facing with things like overdoses and suicides and bad drinking habits, and you can smoke yourself to death too, but we won't talk about them, is this concept of deaths of despair. And it really hits in our region. It really hits at the national level. I was downloading a paper today from the Chronicle of Higher Education about the people who really coined that term. And we can talk about what are they, who started the conversation, and why worry about them here. We will, first of all, start out with what they are, and then the conversation of why they're important here, as I'm seeing on my slide, is increasing, in particular in middle-aged white Americans, often in rural environments, whereas we used to have concern about overdoses, and not so much suicides among Blacks, but previously was high in
Sirius XM. I don't know.
I hear somebody. So since they're high in Appalachia, we wanted to seek their funding in that regard, and the availability was there to obtain funding. I think Melissa mentioned that, and it's just sad. I mean, it's just sad to see the loss of human life and potential. So I'd always wanted to get my foot in the door with the Appalachian Regional Commission. I just loved them. I got to present the meeting up in Pikeville, Kentucky at the years ago with my work on greenways, and I just fell in love with them. Let's focus briefly on ARC before we proceed. So, one of our popular to discuss presidents, Lyndon Johnson, around the time of the mid 60s, when he was dealing with civil rights, he was also dealing with poverty. And he looked at Appalachia and, he said, we'll take a look at this war on poverty and empower people, can't even speak, in places like the Mississippi Delta and Appalachia and other vulnerable places. There's actually some vulnerability up in New England, believe it or not, to rally with funding and rally with leadership. And so what was created by Congress was the Appalachian Regional Commission, which I'll show the map in a second, 13 states, 423 counties, usually a part of a state, not the whole state, but in the case of West Virginia, it is the entire state. You can see it's a large population. It's not the population of California, but it's of one of those major popular states like Texas and Florida. And again, going back to the statistics, the data, and it is the good people of Appalachia who have had sort of the door slammed in their face a lot of times. And that's why we discuss the issues that we're discussing with substance use disorder and the like. Now, I'm talking about veterans. Now, remember, that was going to be my focus. And we have the Scots-Irish culture, and we have the warriors mentality, believe me. And we have some of the highest percentages of veterans signing up to fight our battles for us in a state like Tennessee, or a state like Virginia, or a state like Kentucky, just throughout Appalachia. Of course, the Tennessee Volunteers are famously known, but and they're big populations rates that maybe exceed something a state like Tennessee in Florida, California, Texas, because they have military bases. I think we have a military base in Millington, in Memphis, and then we have Clarksville. We do have the Army base there. So our percentage is a tick higher than Appalachia's percentage is a tick higher than the national. But if you took away the places where the bases are on the coasts, where you get the Navy and the like, we'd be significantly higher. So given the aim of ARC is to innovate, to partner, to invest, as President Johnson, is reaching out to us from his grave, to build the economic capacity and the community capacity, we found a great alignment. Like I say, I wanted to get my foot in the door with ARC. Just to give you a visual, here are the partial counties, rosters of the counties for the 13 states, and then all of West Virginia. They're going up towards Pennsylvania and Maryland and the like in central Appalachia. And actually, you'll see different colors because there's different typology. There's 5 different theoretically regions of Appalachia: the northern, the north central, the central, the south central, and the southern. And they're quite different. Now we fit right in the south central and central. So basically, this take a little bit of reading, but we do have these highest rates of substance use disorder and suicide. Part of it is due to despair, due to the fact that it's like people say, "What am I not wearing deodorant? You're ignoring me." It's like the world has moved on to the world is flat. And industry has shut down. That's why we're dealing with a United Auto Workers strike right now, because the unions are not in the best position like they used to be. So down at the bottom, I kind of list, why Appalachia has these factors of perhaps I gotta be medicated for this. My life is not as happy as I'd like. And our families are not as well off as they like. I'm a hard worker, give me a break. And the country has turned the tide and gone coastal or something. But the disparities seem to be things that we can identify, hazardous occupations. I was thinking about that because I'm Italian American, and I'm sure my family of stonecutters, they probably had their types of occupational injuries too. But we're looking at when pills are available, when medications are available, then you have to deal with the prescribing practices of physicians, nurse practitioners, and family nurse practitioners, economic challenges, which I mentioned, perhaps not the best frequencies or ratios of mental health providers to the population. Some social isolation. I think we would realize that the geography sometimes socially isolates us. And then now in the last few years, and this is not the FX show on that talked about Kentucky and drugs, organized crime, including from Mexico and the raw materials coming from China. It's a big problem. So back to my veterans and why, or I say our veterans, our wonderful veterans, and why they might be in the crosshairs for the issues regarding mental health. This slide sort of shows the high frequency of our warriors with sleep problems, PTSD, anxiety, depression, disabilities, which basically make them not be able to get into the workplace. So I think with those kinds of percentages, one can realize that we need a support alliance, and that's what we're trying to do here. So this now is an opportunity for me to explain to you all, after Melissa's introduction, of why I thought this was important. I had started looking at the county health rankings, all these different things which tell us, how Hancock County in Tennessee compares to Williamson County in Tennessee, the richest versus one of the poorest. And then I love that, and I started to become sort of a mapping person, a GIS wannabe, with those beautiful maps that can show the hot spots, like that Appalachian map. And I, in the second year of a project where I would have a medical student for 6 weeks, give them a computer, we'd go through the process of trying to develop more skills for me, more skills for them. I had a veteran show up on my doorstep, Luke Dawson. And Luke had worked in the coroner's office in York County, South Carolina. So he was already experiencing knowledgeable, had life experience with this. He really kind of helped me join that fact with the idea that we're the Quillen Medical School. We're on the James H. Quillen Medical Center campus. So there was this synergy. And I put down there a personal story. I have a bicoastal marriage. My wife lives in California. We're guardians of our granddaughter, Isabella. She had neonatal abstinence syndrome. Her mother had been a heroin addict since she was 15. And, whatever the ACEs were that led her down that route, Izzy is still having a little difficulty talking. And despite the fact that she's the most incredible young woman and gonna get over it, I'm convinced with the positive love that she's getting from everyone. I now feel like I have some skin in the game. Plus, I'm a recovering golfaholic. So and people say, what's a golfaholic? Well, that's somebody that is addicted to golf. But on the golf course, you often get together with your buddies, and it's a beer cart that goes around the golf course. And so I was a pretty good little drinker. And also this idea of suicide. My mom committed suicide, and I didn't realize that it might later on in life kind of show up in my life course. Both Luke and I during this project started having real thoughts of self-harm, and it was like, call 911, call 811, you stupid jerk. And so, it was very important. So given the fact that we were able to find this project under ARC called Inspire, Investments Supporting Partnerships in Recovery Ecosystems, Inspire, and that we could write a grant. And despite the fact that I'm my own worst critic and I don't necessarily think I write the best grant, we got it. Then we had to start learning. And this 2-slide sequence is just the Tennessee counties, but it kind of gives you an idea of populations and percentages of population. So Inspire funding was interesting. And it's just like some other funding that ARC has. They want you to take the bait and want to succeed with one of their funding initiatives. And I'll mention the other ones. I didn't think we were ready for the implementation grant, which is the $500,000 over 2 or 3 years. I thought we could definitely do an 18-month planning grant to see if we had the political will to put an alliance together. Because I thought what we really need is something so that where we don't collaborate, we start collaborating. When I mention teamwork, I'm talking about it. I'm talking about being a tremendous organization that operationalizes team concepts. And that's not not easy, but it's what we shot for. Now, recovery ecosystems is sociological. And this is just to show what an ecosystem idea looks like, from the individual up to the family and the community, and schools and businesses and everything, up to some really kind of heavyweight topics. I mean, let's just face it, policies and the like, and culture. So we were gung-ho to work on an ecosystem, to tell you the truth, because as Melissa said, I like tough problems. I like the layering of this and that and something else. Problems are wicked these days. And that's what I would tell the medical students, because I teach them in small group. And I say, I'd love the detail that you get as being a basic, in your first 2 years of medical school. Fly with me at 40,000 feet and we'll take a look down at the land like we're a drone, and we'll see some different stuff than you see from riding around at street level. It's just like what you can do with Google Maps. So we got our grant in, and in November of 2021, we were given the award for a $50,000 planning grant. I deferred it until the first of the year. One of the first things we did was, I'd put in some match from including my own pocket, and we rented some space over at the Innovation Lab. I thought we were going to hire staff right away, but I underestimated the amount that I was going to pay people as being such a turnoff, and we couldn't hire people. But it also turned out that I was getting really busy with my medical education stuff, teaching toxicology to second year medical students in their pharmacology course. And I hadn't done it in 25 years, so I was rusty. But we did hire staff. Dr. Dan Rush is a vascular surgeon in the department. I'm in the Department of Surgery, even though don't hold it against me, I'm not a surgeon. His daughter, Mary Catherine, who was born here, had gotten her a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins. And he would talk to her about what Dr. D was doing. And, basically I communicated with her, maybe this is good career development. She decided she would come work for me. And she lived in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It was all virtual, but we were able to, as you see in October 2022, apply for continuing education credits. This was something that I thought would take the burden off of me to try and organize the conference that we said we were going to do to assess the political will. So, the same folks that were doing the credits for medical and nursing and social work and the like were the folks who got us a hotel, who got us, food for folks to have a reasonable time. And I'll be dang if May 25th and 26th of this year, it finally came together, much later than I thought, because the grant was only supposed to go till June 30th. And we had about 100 foot traffic through the DoubleTree in Johnson City over a 2-day conference. So I had never budgeted for that long, but we had topics, we had speakers, we had 6 podium speakers. We had panels on the faith community, on coalitions, on the justice involved issues, on levels of government, on resilience success stories, on the medical, behavioral, social. So I was really putting together a conference with Mary Catherine's help that I wanted to attend. And you can actually access a lot of this through the PowerPoints that people presented, but that's not the panels. So we kind of blew it on that. We had $10,000 left over. And you can imagine in the lead up, I'm meeting all kinds of people. In the interim, with extending the grant 60 days so I can spend out the money, I've got a list in this little black book. It's a couple hundred people that I've been dealing with now, making positive friendships. And so I think, you might say, okay, you spent the money, you had a mini retreat at the beautiful Bristol Hotel, they fed you well again, you had great topics. Now what? You could say the grant's over, stick us with a fork. We're never going back for that kind of hard work. And just to show you how naive I was. This is kind of like, oh, we were going to systematically do these things, gaining capacity. Oh, yeah. Sure. This is how it worked. We did nothing. And then all of a sudden it exploded. And so that's what I'm part of with the excitement for you all today, is it's in the explosion setting. So while COVID was having us not showing up for work at all, I mean, we're mixed right now, I was diving into this GIS. I was diving into the big sources of data that they use in the health rankings, and CDC and the US Census were putting out things on resilience. And sure, they were about COVID, but they were also getting down into the economics, because as you recall, ARC is it's an economic development and community development kind of agency. So I just show the kind of stuff that I lusted after, because it had down in the lower in the right hand panel, occupation by sex. Again, I've got male and female veterans. I've got family members who are going to be looking for occupations. And here I'm showing Washington County, Tennessee. You can go for the other 7 counties of the region and get something comparable. If you're interested in me sharing that with you, I'd be happy to. So I got into the real data mode. And with a climate background, I became familiar with social vulnerability. Now, you can imagine when you have flooding, or you have heat disasters, or you have fires like they had in Maui, which they are relating to climate change or shocks, that we can discern vulnerability. And this just shows from the CDC what's called the Social Vulnerability Index. And again, it's a lot of census data. It's a lot of stuff that can make you go into a swoon. But it's also, if you're systematic, which is not my best strength, but if you're systematic, you can have all this data available to you. And now I'm trying to make it available via the cloud, so I can be working in California and accomplishing things. So here's what those resilience estimates are all about. And basically, I was just trying to play with making a better looking slide, but on the left it's really the socioeconomic factors from the US Census that were in the resilience estimates. And these are actually down to the census tract level. So I'll address that later on. But, back in the ecosystem, the individual and the household at the neighborhood level are determining the impacts, differential impacts of a disaster. Some groups are not going to be as endowed with the capacity and the resources, but why not? Why can't we endow them? And these kind of estimates can help the stakeholders. I hope people are listening today about that, and public health officials, et cetera. Crybabies like me saying we need to put more money into this pot of the budget, et cetera. So here we are. We're one proud name, VETSUDSA, a weird acronym. I can't say it and really not stop from laughing. But that cool logo that you see, which Mary Catherine's friend, she was my assistant, who she'd gone to ETSU with, did a wonderful job on the logo. This is going to be both for one aspect and then another aspect. And so I'm really trying to morph things into something that is also very boots on the ground, very much, let's get our feet dirty, let's get in the fray. So here's the ecosystem. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? I mean, it's kind of like, oh my gosh. This is a graph from ARC, or an image from ARC, about what the components of the work recovery ecosystem is. Because Inspire wants to take people who are in the recovery process, align them with the right kind of treatments and continual attaboys and attagirls that you're doing well, and then also align the private sector, the agencies, the businesses that will hire people. And so all of this around here is my guesstimate of the assets that would be very doable here and are happening here and why we are going to pull this off. I'll just say that. So here's the approach now. It's way over the time we have, but I want to form a learning organization which is going to have those virtues on the left: the mission, vision, values, bylaws, officers and committees, funding issues, become a 501c3, communication, strategic planning and staffing, and then the boots on the ground, still under our little eagle, with all those elements. And the help I'm getting from the folks up in the upper about 1 o'clock, the DDAA and CREC, are helping me do this. The DDAA stands for Development Districts of Appalachia Association. So even though I'm not a development district, I'm using the same geography as the First Tennessee Development District. I'm looking at expanding into the Virginia development districts. And CREC is the Center for Rural Economic Competitiveness. And they are really tightly focused on working with ARC. Center for Rural Economic Competitiveness. And I got selected to be in the second cohort of a learning, training and learning kind of operation. So I'm almost through. I'm learning more skills all the time, and hopefully they'll be proud enough of me that they'll say that was well invested, because he's not a development district, but he is representing, as it was said, the region. I'm a regional guy. So going back to what we've always loved, is, tell me where we stand. And this Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, RWJF, has for decades now done the county health rankings model. So you can compare, apples to oranges or apples to apples. And it's made out of, things that determine rankings. And it's health outcomes, health factors, policies and programs. The only thing is only at the county level. So again, the COVID stuff at the community resilience estimates at the census tract level beam me up. And so I'm putting this out here for you. RWJF, and they were doing the childhood obesity stuff back in the around 2000 with healthy eating and exercise. We're supposed to think it's your zip code that determines your life expectancy. And I'm going, no. Many people are going, no. It's your street address. And that will get to more understanding of these problems and more potential to advance them. And so fortunately, RWJF is getting into things that are at the very granular level. And that is like an emphasis this year on equity. So what lies ahead? Teamwork, expanding to non-veterans, putting resilience at the front and center. Grants at first, maybe trainings later on that we could do. I had a lunch with a woman, Bruni Garcia, who has been way up the pay grade of the military. And when she got out, she was struggling with, what do I do with my life? And she found that other veterans had experienced this. She now works for a nonprofit that is working with the transition of people from the military to the other life, our regular life. Now, there are other things besides the big Inspire. That is the $500,000 grant. If I don't get that, it's going to be like, what else are you going to do? I mentioned power, which is great for our region, but also a lot of places can claim that they're coal impacted. But I think they've had almost $400 million worth of grants in the power initiative. I mentioned Arise, which is new, and you have to be working in multiple states or at least 2 states. So light comes on, folks. Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky. It doesn't have to be contiguous states. We can work with a bunch of different people. And then work, which is a partnership. ARC was very good at partnering. So they came up with a partnership with the Department of Labor. Seeking a sustainable model and pushing ahead the right job clusters. I mean, Are we going to continue to, build hospitals, or are we going to do some other things? Resilience, or shut hospitals and pass it on to a centrally located healthcare system. Resilience capital, and what I'm calling that is, the analogy would be an umbrella over your head and soft ground to land on whenever you get the shock of something unexpected. Climate change, COVID, the 2008 economic collapse, Black Lives Matter, Me Too, mass shootings in schools, toxic social marketing, media. And so what I'm thinking is, and stick with me for another discussion, is how we can put this into our grants, this idea of resilience capitals. I love stories. I think storytelling is going to be the big part of this. And at our conference, we had what are called GIS story maps of 6 of the individuals. 4 were veterans and 2 were not, but they were all working in the right space. So here's something: make your own acoustic guitar, veterans. It's working with your hands. It fits with the Appalachian culture, and we're going to do it. Don't turn into a vegetable if you're in prison. Learn a skill like cutting hair or doing nails or doing makeup. And this is already being practiced in Kentucky and locally with the Washington County Jail. The gentleman there is former Governor Ernie Fletcher from the state of Kentucky, family physician, F-15 fighter pilot. What else hasn't he done? And he's taken on this idea of forming a group which is going to look at recovery housing and the like. Outdoor recreation. We are the epitome of great outdoor recreation opportunities. And think about the connection with nature for our veterans who are struggling. Sunlight, they call it vitamin D, the sunlight vitamin. Also physical activity, just social capital, well-being. But I'm just showing, things like we've done the Tweetsy. Our fly fishing is starting to get more popular around here. And these are things that veterans will love. Eat healthy, eat local. I love what that farmer's market depicts. And that's why I said, what does it depict as benefits? It depicts a social setting. It depicts food which hopefully was grown close to where it's being eaten. It's showing probably a financial transaction so that people are making a living with this. And it is more sustainable than some of our other practices for land use. So this document here, agricultural and local food economies in the Appalachian region, you'll see at the bottom left, it comes from ARC. And I just want to thank you for being an attentive audience, and thanks for being a friend and a neighbor. And it's your turn, and I'm here to listen.
Thank you so much, Tony. That was great information. I have pages of notes. We will be sending, Tony has been kind enough to share his slide deck, so we will be sharing that afterwards. But I want to open it up for some questions. I already see that Tammy has her hand up. So Tammy, if you want to come off mute.
I sure will. And we just got lucky. The dog's outside. I'll even let you see me for a minute while I talk right here. So Tony, I love you to death. I love your research and your thoughts and your ideas. We've been on several committees together, so I appreciate you very much for this information.
Thank you.
And my work is with obviously children and families, and within all those families are, and I think one of the things that kind of rose for me pretty quickly when we're thinking about just those mental health issues, those addictions, is that our veterans come in many ages, forms, right? So like I currently right now have a young man that I worked with through my work at the YWCA. He's about 28 right now, and he is struggling, and he has finally found an office side that's working with him. He's a Virginia resident. I have a very close friend of mine, and he is also struggling. And then I have some senior friends who are struggling. So I think just the biggest picture for me is that a lot of times I think some folks may just hear veterans and think about, you know, seniors and age. We have veterans of all ages that are struggling, and some of them are husbands, fathers. They're trying to make it in society. So I obviously support of anything in the direction that this goes. But that was
I'm counting on it. I'm
initial
counting
talk
on
about
it.
that.
You know, I'm counting on it because I didn't have the time, and I know it took too much time as it is, but the time to say that in our future endeavors to build this out, we need to have women and children and schools, and, you know, a lot of the things that public safety, all these things that can be measured as goals for us. And so we can
Right.
look around, what is it like in the Bristol city? What's it like in Washington County, Virginia? What's it like in Washington County, Tennessee? And be strategic. And that's why I was saying be a learning organization and actually pull people in like yourself to that whole leadership thread. And that's why this is, I've got to listen. I've got to continue to go out and meet people. And I'm happy to come to any association or church, or, you know, I mean, it tickles me that this is having such traction. But
Right. Hey, keep Bristol Coalition on your radar. It's next Tuesday, I think. That's where my office is.
I've been to
in the
one.
Well, there's a lot of veteran support programs that attend those meetings. So I definitely would recommend, and you may want to reach out to Lynn Pennell and see about making a presentation.
Well, yeah, sometimes I don't want to be like too pushy, but, you know, I mean, it was good to dust off my original that I put together when I got the grant, and then update it, you know, like with that, did nothing, did everything, you know, because that's why I'm kind of on a, you know, I'm addicted to this. This work is keeping me from retiring, you know, because it's so satisfying. It gives me purpose, you know, and that's one of the things that I alluded to, you know, is I struggle just like everybody else. I got to keep my big boy panties on, but underwear on, but it's not just that. It's also life throws you some real curveballs, and, you know, that we've got to have resilience. We got to have that umbrella and the soft ground. And I want to show people a little bit about it.
And I wrote that phrase down, Tony, that umbrella over the head and a soft ground to land on, because I appreciate the way that you phrased that. Are there other questions for Tony?
Oh, come on, folks. Don't make me feel like no, I realize it takes a while for this to sink in.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you. I mean, you all have his contact information. Like I said, Karen will be sending out his slide deck. So thank you for sharing that. And we just really appreciate the sharing of the information and the work that you're doing. It is important work. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Karen.
All right. Well, we will get to the networking portion of our meeting. Since we are at that portion, I'm going to remind everybody, feel free to drop your information in the chat. That way others can reach out to you as well. And we do send the chat out with the recording, so you guys will all have access to that as well. And then since we're a little short on time, I'm going to do it a little bit different than Margaret does. And I'm just going to call on groups. And if you have an update, feel free to unmute yourself and give us that update. So I'm going to call on the school systems first.
Okay, I'm assuming that's going to be me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. We're off to a really, really good start. We've had some great academic news from the Department of Education that we talked about last time. I think we're still very excited about that. As far as our Family Resource Center, VTES is partnering with us on evenings at home football games. They broadcast for a Fill the Bucket event. We collected socks. At the Greenville game in this evening, we'll be collecting hygiene supplies, and the majority of those will go back to Tennessee High School. So if you're planning on joining us for the ball game tonight, look for the BTES bucket truck as you come through the gates, and we would certainly appreciate soap, shampoo, conditioner, any type of hygiene supplies. I also have to say that our reading buddies are coming back into schools next week, and we are extremely excited about that. If you're interested in being a BTCS reading buddy, we certainly would welcome you into any of our elementary schools. We aren't looking for folks that will teach reading for us. We're looking for folks that are interested in building positive relationships with a kindergarten, first or second grader. So if you have 30 minutes a week, we would love to welcome you as a reading buddy, and just give me a call. I'll put my contact information in the chat because I'm going to have to move on to the next meeting. Thank you, Tony. You did an awesome job.
I'm not worthy of any praise, but I do feel like I was trying to get it across, and hopefully the people will just give me comments like, make me do it more. Thanks.
You did a great job.
Work together.
Thanks for that update, Kay. I don't think that we have anybody else from the school system, so we'll move on to the cities. So Ellen and Christina. Christina, if you're talking to us, you're muted and we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I've got too many buttons happening in front of me. I don't think Ellen's on here today either. So just really quickly, oh, there she is. She is. Just kidding. Our CAPER, which is the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, is out there. The time to comment has actually elapsed for Bristol, Tennessee. However, you know that you guys can always comment on anything, anytime. But the CAPER is chock full of information about what we did in our programs in the 2022 program year. So I encourage you to read that. Also, our home ARP funding is, let's see, RFPs are going to be due October 18th, and the anticipated award announcement will be around November 14th. And that is for funding for, I think we've talked about it before, but certain types of qualifying populations, including homeless populations, very low income, and veterans, Tony, are part of that. So that's also up on bristoltn.org if you're interested. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
So some of you know I'm Christina's counterpart on the Virginia side. I do the CDBG as well. I am working on my CAPER, which is our report for the past year for how we spent our CDBG funds. So that's going to be available shortly for the same thing, for comments and for the information. I do have one other thing. I have a request. I am working on, for next year, our 5-year plan for CDBG. And I have a very brief, simple survey that I have a link to, and I will probably ask Margaret. I guess Karen, you could probably do it too, but I have a link, and I will share that with Family Promise of Bristol. And if they can send that out for me, and if you all will please take the survey. It's not even 10 minutes long, and it will help to inform our next 5 years and how we spend our community development block grants for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Sure, we'll be happy to send that out for you, Ellen.
Thanks, Karen.
All right, I think that is it for the city. So we'll move on to health. Do we have anybody here with any of the health departments?
Hi. Oh, sorry, I'm not health department. Never mind.
And if not, we'll move on to health providers.
This is Amy from Healing Hands Health. We just wrapped up our health fair recently. We had a lot of support. I think some of you were there doing vendor tables. I just also wanted to let everyone know that we did receive the Health Resiliency Grant from the Tennessee Department of Health. We are still waiting to sign our contract, but we are going to be adding behavioral health that will be integrated with our medical clinic. So we're very excited about that. We see with our own patient population, approximately like 40% are screening for moderate to severe depression and anxiety. Plus, we know there's lots of community need. So we are excited to be part of the solution. There's not a lot of providers in the area doing this work, so we're excited to get that going. And I think everyone knows that we now also accept TennCare and Virginia Medicaid in our dental clinic only. We are, though, we're really being bombarded because there are not many providers for either in our area. So people can still apply to become patients if they have those types of insurance, but we don't have any appointments for new patients until mid-January of 2024. I think that's it for right now. We are accepting new medical patients though, and can get them in pretty quick. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. All right, anybody else in the health realm that would like to go?
I did want to share a new payment plan option we have for private insurance clients. This is Renee Crick. I'm the CNY coordinator here at Bristol Regional Counseling Center. And so this program actually rolled out September 1st. We were able to get it started. And again, it is for private insurance clients, but to help with access to care. We do have a payment plan now that our staff will be sharing with clients who call in with private insurance that would allow them to access services much quicker because they would be able to select their own provider and use that payment plan rather than bill their insurance. So there's a list that we have with the different like payment options that they have based on services that they would like to access and the different providers that they can choose from. And so again, our staff are sharing that with private insurance who call in. So we're pretty excited about that because it's going to increase the speed of which they can access care.
Awesome, Renee. Any other health providers want to go before we move on to recovery?
I can piggyback off of Renee since we're the same company. This is Melissa Birdwell, and I wanted to give one update just about some role changes. So we just did a little bit of shuffling and restructuring. So before, when I was here, I had said that my role was director of the children's outpatient services. But now I will be over adult and children's outpatient services. So if you have any therapy related questions within Frontier, regardless of age, that would be in my realm now. And I also wanted to do another update. I think it was probably about 6 months ago when we were in this meeting, and I had mentioned that we were in the process of writing a grant that would include Bristol. And now I am very happy to announce that we were awarded the grant. So, yay! What that means is that we have a program called Healthy Transitions that we will be expanding. The program currently is just in Greene County, but we will be expanding to include Hawkins County, Sullivan County, which they will be housed in Bristol, and Johnson County. And the program, if you're not familiar with it, is for ages 16 to 25. So it's for folks who are transitioning from childhood to adulthood. So it's that youth, young adult age group, and it's helping them to become successful adults, because we all know that that's a difficult time. The program is completely free. They will have access to therapy, case management, someone who is a specialist in education and employment to help them with either college or high school or job readiness, if that's what they would like to do, and also a peer support person who can be there to help guide them. So we're excited for that to get started pretty soon, but just wanted to follow up.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa.
This is G. Hickman. I'm with the Juvenile Justice Reform. I'm a liaison for Bristol City, and I wanted to inform everyone of a NOT group, which is Not on Tobacco, that is now available for teens cessation group for vaping. This group is available in all of the upper 8 districts or counties of where JJR has an outreach. And what we're hoping is that the Sullivan County Anti-Drug Coalition will work with us. In fact, we have a meeting at Sullivan East High School on the 26th to work with informing the 9th and 10th graders there about cessation and how to reach out for help. Sullivan County Anti-Drug Coalition is going to offer a 4-week program called In Depth, which is a group that can be offered instead of ISS or OSS, and instead of probation or taking a charge for tobacco possession. So we're hoping once those students are finished with that group, if they're truly interested, then they'll feed into the JJR program's NOT group. And I can send a referral form to Melissa for her to send it out to everyone for this group if need be.
That would be great, G.
Thank you.
All right, any other health providers? If not, we will move on to recovery providers.
I'm going to jump in here. I'm sort of kind of part of that. Okay. Just want to let you all know, we train 372 people and dispense about 400 Narcan kits during Rhythm and Roots. If you are a trainer and you would like to participate when we do trainings, let me know that and we'll be glad to plug you in. Last week, we did fentanyl awareness in Tazewell County schools and engaged and educated 1,325 middle and high school students. We are doing that this week in Russell County, and then next week we'll be at J.I. Burton over in the city of Norton. Mended Women currently has 10 residents, and by the end of the day today, another 2 are scheduled to come in. So by the end of this week, there will be 12 women living at the facility. After 2 weeks, they are able to get jobs. And so they're very excited about that. For the first time in their lives, they have multiple job offers. So it's an exciting time for them. So thank you all for your support. We did have a doctor of pharmacy present at the Higher Ed Center this past week. He was phenomenal. So if you're not on the ASAC email list and you would like to be, I put my contact information in the chat box. We don't send a lot of emails, but when we have speakers come in and events, we do send that out. Our next ASAC meeting will be on October the 12th in Buchanan County. We have Keith Cartwright, who is the director of Adverse Childhood Experiences for our region, coming down to be our speaker. And of course, we always have a recovery testimony as well for the ASAC meeting. So we meet every other month somewhere across the region. I think in December, we're going to go down to Natural Tunnel State Park. So we'd love for you to join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Any other recovery providers that have any updates? All right, if not, we will move on to veteran services. Anybody in that realm have any updates they would like to share? All right, then we'll move on to community partners, and that's pretty much everybody else. So if you have anything you would like to share, feel free to do so.
I put some information in the chat, but Appalachian Promise Alliance is going to be hosting the annual State of the Schools address with Dr. Annette Tudor and Dr. David Scott with Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia schools. That's going to be on Thursday, September 28th. So this coming Thursday at 12 at the Bristol, Tennessee City Schools School Board office on Martin Luther King. Lunch is available to purchase, or you can bring your own, but we would love for everybody to come and hear what's going on specifically with our schools and how we might be able to support them and the work that they're doing with our kiddos.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. And then Larissa, do you have any updates for Family Promise of Bristol, such as donations that are needed and that sort of stuff?
So now that the weather is shifting back to being cooler, Family Promise is definitely looking for winter gear donations. Our clothing closet is looking quite bare in terms of jackets and gloves. We're good on hats right now, but jackets and gloves are one of the biggest things. We have also been seeing a spike in the number of people that are coming to the day center. This week we had 75 people on our sign-in sheet for one day. So we are seeing an uptick in the need for our services. But beyond the donations for the winter supplies, we are always welcoming snack donations as well.
Thanks, Larissa. All right. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share? All right. If not, then just a friendly reminder, our next meeting is on October 27th, and that's a Friday at 11 a.m. And thank you, everybody that has attended, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you all. Take care.